Hi everyone and welcome for today's project. We are going to make a super fancy and vibrant 40 by 40 centimeter agate resin artwork using some crystals, stones, color pigments, mica pastes, some plaster and good faith along the go. And for those wondering, as a complete irrelevant side information, I listened to the Mamma Mia Here We Go Again album for the entire project. So in case you have not seen the movies, I really recommend you watch those. I just love them. So this was the reason why I just listened to the music, and it just brings so much joy to listen to it. And yeah, time just is flying by. But returning back to the artwork itself, you can see I've just prepped my canvas. It has some pinboard pins underneath as usual, and I decided for a blue base layer paint. The paint that I'm using is just acrylic paint. It's a craft paint, so no high quality one. This is just meant to be a base layer paint to cover the white of the canvas. And as the entire artwork is going to be into the blue tones, a blue underlayer was pretty much a good thing to opt for. You can also make a lighter blue or a black, whatever you like. I just want to tone the canvas down to have no white of the canvas show through in the end, in case the pigments are not opaque enough or the layer is thinner. You know, everything that could happen I want to be sure to prevent as much as possible. This of course had to dry, and as I tend to be impatient on this, I used my heat gun to speed up the drying process. When the base layer paint was at least almost dry, I started decorating with the glass crystals. The larger ones that you can see in purple are about 2 to 4 millimeters in size, and the smaller ones, which you can see in light blue, are about 1 to 2 millimeters in size. I always love to have some kind of transition between these crystals, so I don't really like these hard edges with really large crystals and then nothing. So I myself think it looks more natural when there is some kind of transition, and this of course is totally up to you when you want to recreate such a project, if you have these transitions or not. When you are making the general design of your piece, you can of course decide whether you just put these stones on there and leave them as they are, or if you want to glue them down. To be honest, when I started out making these geodes, I always glued my stones down. So I just used some PVA glue, which dried translucent, put it on there first, and then added the stones on there. Let it dry and everything was pretty much set already. This back then of course gave me much more self-confidence, especially when it came to the point to adding the resin, because I was already sure that nothing could move anymore. Because when you're new to the entire resin or geode agate creating subject, and to have small stones or lightweight texture objects, let's say, it tends to start flowing when you add the resin onto it. It takes a bit of practice of course, and for those of you who are working with resin for longer, know for sure what I'm meaning. So yeah, if you do not want to risk anything, just glue everything down, let it dry and continue by then. I myself pretty much got a hang for it and don't glue everything down. I just keep on working. And the next step that I'm going to do here is perhaps something unconventional. For those of you who follow me longer, you might already have seen me using this technique, and this is adding some plaster. I did a pretty cool video back in summer last year where I made a base layer of insulation foam and then added some plaster layers in between and added the resin on top of it. It really has an awesome effect. I love how this one turned out. It is still available on my Etsy shop for those who want to adopt it, perhaps, along many other things if you want to check this out. But using plaster is pretty much a super sweet method of getting some cool texture, which you can manipulate yourself with your fingers or some whatsoever tool you would like to use for it. And you can let it dry. It is super lightweight and it just works great. So give it a try if you haven't done so far, and if you like how this one looks. I pretty much mixed up my plaster as it's suggested on the package itself. It's nothing special, it's just plaster that you can get in any hobby market or craft store whatsoever. Really basic plaster that you can mix with water, let it sit for a couple minutes until it thickens, and then pour it onto there. Use your finger or tool, whatever you want to use to create a texture that you would like to have, and then let it dry. This of course had to dry until the next day. I did not want to have it still wet when I added the resin, because the canvas itself is pretty much sealed due to the acrylic paint that I added in the first place, so the plaster in the middle cannot really dry from underneath. And if I would have added the resin right after everything is solid, I'm not sure if everything dries completely or perfectly, or if it just messes with the resin immediately or at some point later when I think everything is completed and finished. So I just let everything dry until the next day. And with the rest amount of plaster that I had available, I just set it aside, let it dry as a thin layer, because I want to use the broken plaster chips, oh my god, language is hard, for another texture layer on the lower part of the canvas. So when this thin layer of plaster that I put aside was just dry as well, I crushed it into smaller pieces and added this one to the lower part of the canvas to increase the look of texture. I used some metallic acrylic paint and painted over the plaster on the upper part. This on the one hand gives it some more texture and depth, because on the valleys you have a darker tone and on the hills you have a lighter tone. You can of course manipulate it, you can use more than one color, you can use whatever color you like. I, for my part, really enjoy the look how this turned out and how it looks in general. And when all these preparation steps were done, I started mixing the resin. The colors that I have used for this project is a dark purple pigment paste, it's a blue pigment paste, and it's an ice blue pigment powder, which is more like a vibrant light blue color. Besides that, to have more contrast and variety within the paints, I also mixed some silver, because the silver itself belongs more to the cold colors, so color temperature wise, and fits pretty well with the blues and the silver. And besides that, I also mixed some pearl pigment. So it doesn't really have a color, it's more like a shiny, shimmery, whitish kind of color, which I want to use as a highlight color. And then I basically just added the resin where I think the colors might work the best, and used my heat gun to heat everything up and move the colors around, pop the air bubbles, and a bit intermixing of all the colors to make it look like a natural formation. Of course, the colors are pretty much way too vibrant for a natural formation, but I like how the colors work together. And for those who like blues and purples, might hopefully fall in love with this piece. my taste, the silver on the upper part moved too much, so I probably used too much of the silver there, but in the very end, which you cannot really see here, I added some isopropanol alcohol, and this of course started the cell creation. So in case you have not done this so far on resin, if you moved your resin around with your heat gun and you still feel there's something missing, you can add some drops of iso alcohol, and yeah, I just put it on my fingers and flick it on there, and it makes a really cool effect. Pretty much something like adding silicone on top of your poured painting when you have no silicone mixed into your paints. But of course the cells do not stay as they are still kind of moving because the resin always has its own head, of course. But yeah, this is everything that I did for this piece. When the resin was halfway cured, I removed the tape so that the resin can flow a bit over the edges and seal the edges, and then it was done. And it was pretty fun, and I liked the outcome of it. And I again realized that it was really fun using the plaster for this. I love the look that you can achieve with it, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to play with this even more in the future. Let me know if you like the entire design, if you like the look, if you like the usage of the plaster and the effect that you can create with, and if you did something like that as well before, perhaps. So yeah, if you like this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done already. If you're a new subscriber and have not seen so many of my videos, please make sure to have a look around. I already have about 230 videos on my channel about acrylic pouring, about resin, realism, drawing, color pencil, oil colors, tutorials, whatever you would like to see actually. And if you have whatsoever requests for coming videos, make sure to leave me in the comment section as well. If you want to get in touch with me, my social media links of course are linked below in the video description, as well as the materials that I have used for this project. Again, thank you so much for your time, thank you for watching, and other than that, I hope to see you in my next video. Have a great day. Bye bye.